This past week, we've heard plenty of fans who are just disappointed with their first looks at NASCAR 21, and some have compared it to the ill-received NASCAR The Game 2011. Well, this is definitely jumping the gun, and I feel like people don't realize the grand scale of the disappointment that NASCAR 2011 was to the NASCAR fandom at the time. But to really understand it, we have to go back to the pre-2011 days, the EA days.
EA Sports, it's in the game.
NASCAR Thunder 2004.
The EA Sports days of NASCAR gaming are often heralded as the golden era of console NASCAR gaming. The initial years built up to a gold standard of console gaming for NASCAR fans that many are really just trying to get back to this day. From NASCAR Thunder 2003 to about NASCAR 2005 Chase for the Cup, EA had its peak. The perfect mix of racing product in the game modes, and forward-thinking ingenuity. It was a perfect storm. They revolutionized NASCAR gaming. They revolutionized the career mode, added 3 of the lower series, and it was just a great time to be a NASCAR gamer. It was a perfect storm because everything came together to make the best possible product for the player. Unfortunately, though, storms don't last long, and the EA NASCAR empire would quickly collapse. With NASCAR 06 and 07, the games were mostly up to snuff, but there were increasingly glitching different pieces, and glitches were slowly starting to get it worse and worse. Plus, they were removing features. This trend avalanched into NASCAR 08 and NASCAR 09. These games were absolutely atrocious and gave many players the taste of what EA was going to become in general in the future. By the time their contract ended, any rational player was more than happy to see EA just walk out the door and finally go. While great in its time, the company had run its course with NASCAR gaming and new blood was needed. This led to a time of absence for NASCAR games. And in this absence, anticipation began to grow amongst fans of what would come next. After the terrible ending of EA, many fans were even more excited now to see what other companies could do with the license. Then, in fall of 2010, the silence of NASCAR gaming was over.
It's a scary place to race, and they don't call it the Monster Mile for nothing.
It's definitely not a joyride. 400 miles here at this concrete monster.
That is, hold your line here. Hold your line. Middle is good. Shoot the middle. Clear to the bottom. You got it. You got it. Oh, no. Okay, buddy, you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
In an instant, excitement was through the roof for all NASCAR fans who played games. The graphics looked the best ever for a potential NASCAR game. The trailer showed crash physics that had never been seen in a large console NASCAR game. To this day, this trailer is probably the best that NASCAR fans have ever seen for one of their games. At this point, all we could do was wait and just anticipate it finally coming out. The game was delayed though a few times after this trailer. The game ended up releasing in March of 2011. And in hindsight, with the early 2010 standards and culture of gaming, this should have been a huge and first major red flag. But when it debuted, many to most of fans were left confused by it. How the hell could it be this bad? I remember getting it in the spring of 2011, popping it into my Xbox 360, and within an hour, I had to put down the controller. And I didn't pick it back up for this game until the end of my summer break that August. The game was outdated with the bodies already. Difficulty levels didn't even matter because the AI varied so much that you could never really get a consistent race or gauge on them. Most of the time, they were really stupid easy to beat. But Other times, they were stupid good and it was impossible to beat them. The damage model looked nice, but the car falls apart the moment you get anywhere near anyone, and your car is damn near unrecognizable by the end of a race. So, if you played with damage on, your car would be junked from minimal contact. Wrecks were awful as well, as sometimes the AI would just randomly take you out, and that wasn't even when they were glitching. This game had so many unremedied glitches that it made the game unplayable for most. And that's if you could even get the game loaded, because half the time I remember playing this game, it was me staring blankly into a loading screen. And in these moments, I have to admit, I sat there wishing for the sweet release of death to finally take hold of me. Also, there were either duplicate cars and or non-cup drivers in the 43 driver roster. Now, I don't remember every single thing about the 2010, 2011 era, but I remember a lot. And I know for a fact there were more than 43 cars showing up every week, so there's no reason they should have had this as a problem. Some drivers who were not even in Cup at the time were also in the Cup series in this game. Jennifer Jo Cobb, Danica Patrick, Ryan Truex, Eric Almirola, Todd Bodine, and Trevor Bayne all were not in the Cup series, or at least weren't in it that much in the last couple races of 2010 and in 2011 when this game was made and came out. I understand Danica being in the game. With her star power, you probably need to get her in to sell more games to people, as well as Trevor Bayne and Ryan Truex. At the time, they were considered rising stars in the sport that really could have popped up and been really well and maybe superstars one day in the Cup series. We know now that didn't happen, but at the time we didn't. But the rest, I just don't understand. But at least Kevin Conway got the boner car in the game, so that's a nice plus. If you can't tell, this game was the furthest from the great expectations set by the initial trailer. What sucked for Eutechnyx as a whole is that the series was basically a burnt bridge because of this game. They had a great game following this one at NASCAR The Game Inside Line, but no one cared. Due to the misrepresentation that this game had, basically the series was dead on arrival. 10 years later, the legacy of this game is disappointment. While NASCAR Heat Evolution might be considered the worst NASCAR game ever, it was nowhere near as hyped as this game was. So, with that being said, I want to pass it on to you. What do you remember about NASCAR The Game 2011, and what do you think the legacy is? Is it as disappointing as I say it is, or is this a diamond in the rough? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel for more great NASCAR content. Also, to all of my channel members, thank you so much for your support. So until next time, have a good one.